Hello everyone, welcome to Arunachala CSE channel. This is Brinda, Assistant Professor of CSE Department, and we are now in lecture series 2 of C programming and going to cover the topic control structures. First of all, control statements. In C language, the programs are executed sequentially order. This happens when there is no condition around the statement, and if we put some condition for a block of statements, then the flow of execution might change based on the result evaluated by the condition. This is called as control statements. And then classification of control statements. There are two classifications, conditional and unconditional. Conditional contains decision making and branching as well as looping process. Unconditional statements contain go to, break and continue statements. First of all, if statement, which comes under decision making and branching. This condition is evaluated to either true or false statement. The true is always a non-zero value and the false will contain always a zero value. These instructions can be a single instructions or a code block that is enclosed within curly braces. And here is an example that is explained. In this program, we have initialized two variables with num1, num2 with values 1 and 2 respectively. Then we have used the if with the test expression to check with the number is the smallest and which number is the largest. We have used a relational expression in if construct. Since the value of num is smaller than the num2, the condition will evaluate to true. Thus, it will print the statement inside the block of if. After that, the control will go outside of the block and the program will be terminated with a successful result. The next one, if-else statement. This is a type of construct. If the value of the text expression is true, then the true block will be executed, and if the text expression is false, the false block will be executed. In any case, after the execution, the control will be automatically transferred to the statements appearing outside the block of if. In this example program, we have initialized a variable with a value 19. We have to find out whether the number is bigger or smaller than 10 using C program. So here we have provided a condition num 10 less than 10 because we have to compare our value with 10. As you can see, the first block is always a true block, which means if the value of the test expression is true, then the first block, which is if, will be executed. The second block is an else block. This block contains a statement which will be executed if the value of the test expression becomes false. In our program, the value of num is greater than 10, hence the test condition becomes false and else block is executed. Thus, our output will be from else block, which is the value is greater than 10. Next, we have the nested if-else statement. Here, the series of decision is required. Only if the series of decision is required, the nested if-else statement is executed. And nesting means giving if-else statement or constructing the if-else statement within another one. Here is an example. Here we declare a variable num with value as 1. And if we are using if-else construct. In the outer if-else, the condition provided checks if the number is less than 10. If the condition is true, then and only then it will be execute the inner loop. In this case, the condition is true, hence the inner block is processed. In the inner block, we again have a condition that checks if our variable contains the value 1 or not. When a condition is true, then it will process the if block. Otherwise, it will process an else block. In this case, the condition is true, hence the if block is executed and the value is printed on the output screen. So the above program will, the given program will be printing the value of a variable and exit with a success. The next one, else if ladder statements. Here the chain generally looks like a ladder, so it is called as else if ladder. And the test expressions are evaluated from top to bottom. Here the true expression is found statement which is associated, that is executed. And when all the n test expressions will be false, becomes false, then the default else will. So in this example program, we have initialized a variable with marks. In the else if ladder structure, we have provided various conditions also. the value from the variable marks will be compared with the first condition since it is true. The statements will be printed in the output screen, and if the first test condition turns out false, then it is compared with the second condition. This process will go on until all the expressions is evaluated. Otherwise, the control will go out of the else if ladder and the default statement will be printed. Next is switch case statement. So it is the test value which compares with multiple cases. Once the case is matched with the blocks found in the statements, the particular task will be executed. If a case does not match, then the default statement will be executed and the control goes out of the switch block. In this given program, we have explained the initialized variable num value with 8, and a switch construct is used to compare the value stored in the variable num and execute the block of statements associated with the cases. In this program, the value stored in the variable num is 8 and switch will execute the case whose case label is 8. After executing the case, the control will fall out of the switch and the program will be terminated and the output screen will be displayed. Then next one is looping statements. First of all, what is looping? The loop executes the sequence of statements many times until the stated condition becomes false. And it consists of two parts. One is body of the loop and the control statements. The control statement is a combination of some conditions that will directs the body of the loop and executes until the specified condition becomes false. And the purpose of this loop is to repeat the same code many number of times. And this is the format of looping statement. And here we are starting and the test condition is given. And if the condition is true, it will execute the block again. Otherwise, it will go outside the loop. Next, you are going to see about while statement. While statement is an entry controlled loop. In this while statement, a condition is evaluated before processing a body of the loop. If the condition is true, then the body of the loop will be executed. After the body of the loop is executed, then the control again goes back at the beginning and the condition is checked if it is true. The same process is executed until the condition becomes false. Once the condition becomes false, the control goes out of the loop. And in our example program, we have initialized a variable called num with value 1. We are going to print from 1 to 10, hence the variable is initialized with the value 1. So if we want to print from 0, then assign the value 0 during initialization. In a while loop, we have provided a condition num less than or equal to 10, which means the loop will execute the body until the value of num becomes 10. After that, the loop will be terminated and the control will fall outside the loop. In the body of a loop, we have print function to print our number and an increment operation to increment the value per execution of a loop. An initial value of a num is 1. After the execution, it will become 2 and during the next execution, it will become 3. And this process will continue until the value becomes 10 and then it will print the series on a console and terminate the loop. Next, we are going to see about a do-while loop. A do-while loop is similar to the while loop, but except the condition is always executed after the body of the loop. It is also called as exit controlled loop. In the do-while loop, the body of the loop is always executed at least once. It should be executed at least one time. And in our example program, we have initialized a variable num with value 1 and then we have written a do-while loop. In a loop, we have a print function that will print the series by multiplying the value num with 2. After each increment, the value of the num will increase by 1 and it will be printed on the screen. Initially, the value of num is 1 in a body of the loop and the print function will be executed in this way, that is 2 multiplied by num, where num is equal to 1. Then 2 star 1 is equal to 2. Hence the value 2 will be printed. This will go on until the value of num becomes 10. After that, the loop will be terminated and a statement which is immediately after the loop will be executed. In this case, it returns a value 0. And then next one is for loop. Here the initial value of the for loop is performed only once. It cannot be changed. The condition is a Boolean expression that test and compare the fixed value after each iteration. And when the false value is returned, the increment or decrementation increases as well as decreases based on the set of values. And from our example program, we have declared a variable of an integer data type to store the values. In for loop, in the initialization part, we have assigned value 1 to the variable number. In this condition part, we have specified our condition and then the increment part. In the body of the loop, we have a print function to print the numbers on a new line in the console. So we have the value 1 stored in the number. After the first iteration of the value will be incremented and it will become 2. Now the variable value become 2. Then the condition will be rechecked, and since the condition is true, loop will be executed and it will print 2 on the screen. So this loop will keep on executing until the value of the variable becomes 10. After that, the loop will be terminated and a series of 1 to 10 will be printed on the screen. And the next one is unconditional statements. And unconditional statements normally have no conditions. There will not be any conditions. And first of all, we are going to see about break statement. This break statement is used mainly in switch case statement only. So it is useful for immediate stopping of the loop. So if we want to stop a process immediately, we have to use a break statement. So in our example program, we have used a break statement inside a switch as well as while. It can be used in while also. So here you have used the break system, that is break statement. And if the condition is true, then it will break the statement. The next one, go to statement. The go to statement always transfers one control from one statement to another, but it will transfer the conditions only in the same functions. It reduces the program reliability and it makes more difficult to maintain the conditions. So in our example program, here the go to function is go to statement is used, and here the data will be, or the value will be jumped from or skipped from one place to another. And the next one, continue statement. In this continue statement, continue always continues the statement. So when we want to skip the next iteration, that is next iteration, if you want to skip, you can perform skipping process, and then you can give the continue statement and you can continue the process. So in the given example, so we have given the while condition and we have decremented a value, and if the condition is true, you are continuing the process. So this what about continue statements. Thank you.